Today I want to talk about grief. Grief is such a complicated process. We say grief as if it's just this one feeling, but grief is really a culmination of so much. And it's more than the 5 stages that have been brought up I don't know how many times. Sadness, isolation, bargaining, anger, acceptance. It's bigger than that. Grief can incorporate just about every feeling anyone can possibly name. And grief is cyclical. I kind of like to describe it more like a spiral that, when you first start in this spiral, it's big. It's really big. And that's where all these different feelings come into play. And you may feel them multiple times over before the next wave of grief hits. And maybe your circle is a little bit smaller. And maybe you don't feel everything the way you did the first time. And each time you experience grief, the hope is that circle gets smaller and smaller and smaller. But it'll never go away. And part of the reason why it'll never go away is because if you are grieving a loved one, there will never come a time when you don't miss that person, when you don't wish that person was there, experiencing life with you, good and bad. So it's never ending. And truth is, the first 2 years after losing that person is still just the beginning of grief. If you have a lifetime of grieving to look forward to, then 2 years seems relatively fair to get a start on it. But everybody moves through these grief cycles at their own pace. So don't feel rushed. Don't feel like it's been 3 months, I should be over it. I should be better now. Things should be okay. No. Depending on how integrated this person was into your life, you essentially have to learn how to be you without them. A very striking moment in a therapy session for me was when I was sitting with a client who had lost his twin. And he shared with me, I've been a twin all my life. That's how I've been defined, as so-and-so's twin. How can I be a twin without my brother? And that blew me away, because in his truth, in those statements, in his reality, that was so clear. How the loss of loved ones devastates. How you have defined yourself by the presence of this other person, and the work that truly has to be done when they're no longer with you. You must redefine who you are. Without that person next to you, without that person to call, without that person to talk to rely on, without that person to just share life with. That's what makes grief so much bigger than 5 stages. That's what makes grief ongoing. But it is not insurmountable. If you've lost someone and you're grieving and you're trying to figure all of this out, please reach out to someone, anyone. If it's a professional, great. If it's not, that's okay. But there's another line that was in a movie, don't ask me which one, that I thought was, wow, that is so profound. Grief is meant to be shared. Your path through grieving and redefining who you are is in how you share your loss. So please don't close yourself away behind doors and cut people off and tell yourself that no one else understands your loss. There are people who understand, and there are people who want to support you, whether they are currently in your network or they're new people waiting to meet you. Reach out. Talk about your loss. Talk about your process. Talk about where you are and how you are trying to redefine you. I promise it will help.